giving us class. So just for a brief introduction, Kanhai Gopal Prabhu came to Krishna consciousness in 2006 when he was in college studying engineering. He associated with and served at ISKCON Youth Services in ISKCON Chowpatty, Mumbai, until 2014, and then he moved to the US to pursue his master's. He's been a part of the Round Rock congregation since 2018. Professionally, he works as a senior design engineer at a semiconductor company in Austin. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us today, Prabhuji. If everyone could unmute themselves to welcome him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible clearly? Okay. Thank you so much for the kind welcome. I'm just very grateful to be in the Association of Devotees and being able to serve in some way to purify my existence. I would like to thank all the devotees for joining this call this Sunday. And this Sunday we'll try to continue on discussing the keys to success on the path of bhakti. A couple of weeks ago, we discussed, that was a part one. Today, we'll discuss more aspects of it, the second key, which is association. Let me share my screen and then we can get started. So let's start with prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So let's talk about the keys to success in bhakti. This is going to be our second part of the discussion. But before that, we'll have a quick recap of the first key that we talked about in the last session, which was sadhana. And in sadhana, we discussed how we tried to make an acronym, although it's not perfect, it's not the best, but it's something that holds some key points together. So we have to seek shelter in our sadhana and be sincere about it, right? We have to be sincere about Krishna, be serious about Krishna, and be serious about Maya. That's the essence of a Krishna conscious attitude. We said we have to be a little austere, accept a little bit of inconveniences on the path of sadhana, so that we can purify ourselves, so that we can advance more. Rising up early in the morning, chanting japa, right, 16 rounds in the association of devotees. We have to be able to like accept little inconveniences here and there. And so that's austerity. And then we have to be use detachment to cut off the mind's complaints or desires that are not conducive to Krishna consciousness, and use determination uh, to execute sadhana, right? Humility. Sadhana is not simply about being the best 16 round chanter, but we also have to be humble. Unless we inculcate humility, the pure love of God won't manifest in our heart. Then we said acceptance. Unless we turn a blind eye towards our own shortcomings, and unless we accept those, we won't be able to make lasting changes in our sadhana. So having acceptance of one's own shortcomings is necessary. And then we said nurturing our aspiration to by associating with devotees who are advanced, and by constantly nurturing the desire to become purified and perfect one day. It will keep us motivated to keep performing our sadhana. And then the last thing was attention, which is we have to pay attention. We have to be very attentive during our sadhana. What we do during our sadhana impacts what we do during our day. What we do throughout the day will impact our sadhana. So if one of the most important principles of Krishna consciousness is attentiveness. Where is your attention? So that, and then we also discussed the need for consistency. Is that good sadhana, the most important feature of good sadhana is consistency, is not losing consistency, starting at a small point and then growing gradually and becoming consistent. And then we also discussed how sadhana, what the relationship of sadhana is to the other key factors in the life, in the life of a bhakta. We said it is like an anchor which will anchor our boat in the turbulent waters of Kali Yuga. The other keys are external factors, and sadhana is an internal factor. It is about our connection with Krishna, and the stronger it is, uh, the better it will be for us when the external factors fluctuate and vary. So to keep this factor as strong as possible is very important for a sadhaka, for a practicing devotee. And then with that, we will move on to discussing about Sangha, which is our second key. And before I start talking about this, I would like to open the forum maybe for a couple minutes and ask devotees. Maybe you can unmute yourself, and maybe just for a minute or two, I'll have devotees point out why Sangha or association is important. And I am going to quickly utilize a feature. Oh, I wish that was there.
Are you trying to annotate, Prabhu?
Yes.
Yeah, so let me do this because we have actually disabled that for
Oh, okay.
participants. So even I don't think, I'm trying to see if I have the ability to annotate. Let's see. Give me 2 minutes. Let me see if I can annotate, Prabhu.
Sure, sure.
You should be able to annotate because you are a host. Let me know if you can't.
Well, that's okay. I think I have my phone. So what I'm going to do is write it down on my phone and then put it on the slides and share with devotees later. So that should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
So I want to open the forum for devotees to ask why Sangha is important. And maybe let's hear a few points. You could unmute yourself and then share why Sangha is important. And then I'll try to note it down.
Inspiration.
Inspiration. Okay.
I think the people around you like influence your behaviors and actions, I guess. So having good association will help you like have good behavior, and bad association could cause you to have bad behavior.
Okay, so influence on our behavior. Okay.
Sangha provides a safety net for devotees, Prabhu.
I'm sorry, Prabhu, it got mixed up. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, Sangha provides a safety net for devotees to stay afloat.
Okay. Provides a safety net. All right. There was one more devotee trying to say something.
Exchange of ideas to improve oneself, one's sadhana.
Okay. Exchange of ideas.
So,
okay.
Sangha is like a barometer, Prabhuji. Like it helps us measure where we stand. Are we really growing in our bhakti, or are we going down? So it helps us understand that with the help of Sangha.
Barometer of our progress. Well, I think I should have called all devotees and asked this question before I started preparing this presentation. These are great points. And anyone has other thoughts?
Sangha brings joy into our life.
Okay. Joy brings joy in our lives. All right. Okay. Those are great points. I'm going to give a quick couple seconds if there was one last thought.
Yeah, it's also mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is talking about 5 limbs. Sadhu Sangha is one of the dominant limbs on which everything rotates.
Okay. Sadhu Sangha is the dominant thing on okay.
And also, to Prabhu's point, Sadhu Sangha is it protects us. It's kind of a kavach to protect our bhakti from modes of material nature.
All right. Wow.
Gives us a family.
Okay, it gives us a family. Wow. I think we can spend the entire 1.5 hour talking about why Sangha is important. But these are such brilliant points. Gives us inspiration. It influences our behavior, provides a safety net. We can exchange our ideas to improve our sadhana. It's a barometer of progress, brings joy in our lives. And it is from the scripture, from Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is the dominant thing around which everything else rotates. It protects our bhakti, gives us family. Wow. We could have a presentation just on these points, and that'll be a brilliant discussion as well to have. For me also, Sangha is something that has given me the desire for bhakti. If there was no Sangha for a person like me, bhakti was the last thing I would have thought of or even considered in my life. So it is something that actually brings bhakti in our life. We started discussing the keys to success in bhakti with sadhana, whereas actually our sadhana or our spiritual life begins with Sangha. That's the verdict of the scriptures, and that's what I had listed down here, which is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says Adav Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sango Tha Bhajan Kriya Tato Anartha Nivritti Sya Tato Nishta Suchi Sata, and then it goes on to describe the progress of one's devotional life. But with a little faith, once one associates with a saintly person, with a devotee, that's how one's spiritual life begins. And so that is why Sangha is so important, along with all the other factors that devotees listed. So thank you all for sharing those thoughts also. I am not a Shastric scholar. I hear a lot and try to note points. Fortunately for me, there was something in an email that another devotee had shared with me, where the quotes on Sangha from Chaitanya Charitamrita. And this is not an exhaustive list. And having an exhaustive list would simply mean that we keep reading these quotes from the scriptures for the next 1.5 hours. But these are some important quotes. Sadhu Sangha Krishna Bhakti Shraddha Yadi Hai Bhakti Phala Prema Hai Samsara Yakshay. By associating with the devotee, one awakens his faith in devotional service to Krishna. Because of devotional service, one's dormant love for Krishna awakens, and thus one's material conditioned existence comes to an end. Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Kay, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoy. This is a very famous verse, at least for a lot of devotees might know this, that the verdict of all revealed scriptures is that by even a moment's association with a pure devotee, one can attain all success. There's more. Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Haya Sadhu Sangha Krishna Preme Janma Tenho Puna Mukhya Anga. The root cause of devotional service to Lord Krishna is association with devotees. Even when one's dormant love for Krishna awakens, association with devotees is still most essential, even after one's dormant love for Krishna awakens. Sadhu Sangha Nam Kirtan Bhagavad Shravana Mathuravas Shri Murti Shraddhaya Sevana. One should associate with devotees, then chant the holy name of the Lord, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, recite at Mathura, worship the deity with faith and veneration. Sadhu Sangha Haite Haya Shravana Kirtana Sadhana Bhakti Haya Sarvanartha Nivartana. When one is encouraged in devotional service by the association of devotees, one becomes free from all unwanted contamination by following the regulative principles and chanting and hearing. Well, there is more. I'm not going to read all the verses, but maybe I'll just read translation of one of those. Association with a devotee, the mercy of Krishna, and the nature of devotional service help one to give up all undesirable association and gradually attain elevation to the platform of love of God. By the mercy of Krishna and by the association of devotees, one increases his attraction to and intelligence for pure devotional service. Therefore, one gives up everything and engages himself at the lotus feet of Krishna and his pure devotees. So there's more references. We will talk about things from Srimad Bhagavatam a couple slides later. But I want to also highlight how Srila Prabhupada emphasized so much on association. This is from the 7 purposes of ISKCON. And number 3 is to bring the members of the society together with each other. Basically means to create a Sangha, association. We are an international society for Krishna consciousness. In Hindi, it is translated as Antarashtriya Krishna Bhavnamrita Sangha. We are a Sangha, members of society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity, and thus develop the idea within the members and humanity at large that each soul is a part and parcel of the quality of Godhead, Krishna. To bring the members closer together for the purpose of teaching a simpler and more natural life. So Srila Prabhupada's mood in actually establishing ISKCON was also to create a society where all devotees come together and can connect with each other and can connect with Krishna. So I have also tried to list how Srila Prabhupada encouraged devotees to constantly keep association of devotees and never give up association of devotees. So these are some lines from a couple of letters that he had written to his disciples. Maybe I can ask a volunteer or two to unmute and then you can read from the slide.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Sure, Prabhu.
The best way to make advancement in Krishna consciousness is by the association of advanced devotees. The best thing is if you can move into our temple in Minneapolis. Just as you have become Krishna conscious by the association of other devotees, similarly by your association, gradually your parents will come to appreciate the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Give them prasadam and encourage them to read our books. And if you can, get them to chant Hare Krishna. In any case, whether you are able to live in the temple or not, you can always go on chanting Hare Krishna, and in that way, gradually your life will become perfect. Letter to Kim Kostad, April 16, 1977, Minneapolis.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah. So the best way to make advancement in Krishna consciousness is by the association of advanced devotees, right? And you get association. Once you get association, you try to create association. Next, is there one more devotee who would like to read?
Can I read?
Sure, Prabhu.
Srila Prabhupada on Sangha or Association. I am very glad to know that you have been staying for some months at our London temple in the association of our devotees. This is certainly the most fortunate company for you, and I know that if you maintain the association of devotees, your life will be happy and perfect. That is the version of the Shastra that the most important thing for spiritual realization is the company of realized souls or pure devotees of the Lord. Study our literatures attentively and try to understand the philosophy nicely with the help of your God brothers. Always work cooperatively to spread Krishna consciousness movement and chant Hare Krishna, and your life will be sublime. This was a letter to Tribhuvananath, July 18th, 1970, LA.
Thank you. This was a letter of actually initiation. Tribhuvananath Prabhu was one of the most dynamic leaders of Sankirtan that at least our society has seen. And this was Srila Prabhupada encouraging Tribhuvananath Prabhu to maintain association with devotees and see what inspiration that comes from the devotees. He went ahead and created like an explosion of Krishna consciousness in so many countries through his life and example. All right, I have a couple more. So devotees, feel free to volunteer. We can, these are Srila Prabhupada's words, which are very important for us to understand how he emphasized on association. So yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I can read it.
Yes, please.
So thank you for your sincere effort in pleasing me. Under all circumstances, you must remain in the association of devotee. Do not let yourself fall out of this association. Even if it is very difficult, there may be many problems or disagreements still. Simply by remaining in the association of devotees and follow our regulative principle, chanting 16 rounds, rising early, etc., you will become purified. If you leave the association of devotees to follow this regulative principle, will be very difficult. Letter from Parvati, December 27, 1974.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, Krishna consciousness delineates one of the highest goals of spiritual life. And because those are the highest goals of spiritual life, our standards, some of them are very difficult to follow. And with the association of devotee, without the association of devotees, it becomes very difficult to even follow those standards. So that was the essence. Srila Prabhupada emphasized on that. There's one more. I can read if there's no one. I can read this one actually. Srila Rupa Goswami has described that devotional service can be advanced by 6 processes. Perhaps you know them. They are as follows: enthusiasm, patience, conviction, following the regulative principles, being honest in one's professional, and in the association of devotees. So this Krishna consciousness society is especially meant for giving people the opportunity to associate with devotees. Devotees means who are following the regulative principles. One cannot be independent and at the same time become a devotee, because all devotional activities are based on surrender. So in the association of devotees, we learn this important item: how to surrender. But if we keep our independence and try to become devotees, that is not possible. Letter to Rairam, October 22nd, 1971, Bombay. So this is very important point. Srila Prabhupada is constantly emphasizing so many disciples of his to keep association. And I think I have 2 more. So do we have volunteers? You can repeat that, okay? Yes. Yes, Prabhu.
Please accept my blessings. I beg to acknowledge receipt of your letter dated February 4th, 1970, and I'm glad to learn that you have now become steady in comparison with your flickering past life. The association of devotees is the most important element in learning Krishna consciousness way of life. By association with undesirable companions, we have learned so many bad habits, and similarly, by association with pure persons or devotees, we can become purified of our acquired bad habits. So, constant association and working cooperatively with devotees is the prime and easy method to relearn our original good habit of Krishna consciousness. Later to Sachi Sutta, February 14th, 1970, LA.
Thank you, Prabhu. And the last one.
I can read.
Yes.
Your third question is, does the soul ever become weak or strong on account of its association and contact with material nature? It is not the spirit soul that becomes weak or strong, but it is his determination to become Krishna conscious that me become weak or strong. By the influence of the modes of passion and ignorance, he becomes weak, and by the influence of the mode of goodness, he becomes strong. But by the association with the pure devotees, he becomes strongest. Letter to Chaturbuja, May 9th, 1973, LE.
Thank you. So the soul's determination to become Krishna conscious is what becomes weak or strong, not the soul itself. And it's the modes of material nature. But by the association with the pure devotee, one becomes strongest. So there were so many of these points that Srila Prabhupada was like emphasizes in so many letters. Again, we could keep on talking about that throughout this whole session. But Srila Prabhupada emphasized so much. He created this society so that we could associate with each other and connect with Krishna, connect with each other, become devotees. Let's talk about some examples from scriptures, from history. I'm going to try to keep it a little interactive. Let's see if devotees have any stories from history. From when I say history, I mean Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavata history of lives being transformed because of association. Would anyone like to share some points? Some examples of someone who became devotee, someone whose life was changed. Do we have volunteers?
Not from turning into devotee, Prabhu.
Mm-hmm.
In the first and second canto, if you see the association of Narada with Vyasa, that's a very, very significant example of how a pure devotee's association to Vyasa has turned him to give us unimaginable, monumental Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes, brilliant, Prabhu. I think, yes, that was actually my first point. Just the life of Narada Muni. Narada Muni is narrating to Vyasadeva his past life, that how he became a devotee in the association of Bhakti Vedantas in his past life. That he was the son of a simple maid servant, and she was serving the Bhakti Vedantas, the devotees. And by serving them, by constantly associating with them for 2 seasons, he said, for rainy and for autumn season, he associated with them, he served them. By his gentle disposition, by his humility, he earned the blessings of the Bhakti Vedantas, and they blessed him with the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, and which is on, like, then we see how his journey begins. So Narada Muni is one example. I think I saw one hand raised. Okay.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu, it was me, and then I lowered because this was the best example. So I thought
Okay.
maybe I should not speak.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So,
I know. Yes, yes, Mataji.
so yeah, when you said if any devotee, so we all are like most of us are trying to be devotees. So I keep myself in that category, just trying to be devotee. So what happened is when I started my career life, I had first association at home, and like my aunt, and then one of Mataji's who happened to stay in her building, she introduced, and then through Bhaktivedanta Hospital, I came in association with few devotees, and then from there the journey started. So just by looking at the behavior of devotees at workplace, so then it happened that I got into the same place where we had two very senior initiated devotees. They gave me books. So then just looking at their behavior at workplace, how they talk, how they deal with the situations. So then we think, oh, there is something special about them. They're different from rest of the crowd. So that inspires us. And then even if we want to leave, then Krishna makes sure that there is always association. Once we are into it, Lord never leaves us. Somehow or other, we'll keep getting association, and that changes my life. I've
Hare Krishna.
devotees are
Mataji, your voice is
different.
breaking.
Yeah.
It's breaking.
Oh, but initial part was heard, right?
Yes, Mataji. So,
Okay, so I think, yeah, that's
yes. Thank you for sharing that personal example of yours. I think each one of us is actually here because of another devotee, because of association.
right. Yeah, thanks, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
Rugari the hunter also has changed totally his life.
Yes, that's a brilliant example. Narad Muni giving association to Mrigari. Anyone else?
Dhruva Maharaj, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Giving association.
Yes. Narad Muni, Dhruva Maharaj.
And
Right.
thinking of Prahlad Prabhu, the association Prahlad gave to his classmates.
Yes. Oh, wow. That's nice. I didn't think of that, but yes, that's also a point. Yes. So Narada Muni became a devotee in the association of Bhaktivedantas. Nirja Mataji shared her personal example of she became devotees. Looking at other devotees, Dhruva Maharaj became a devotee in association of Narada Muni. Prahlad Maharaj himself, when Hiranyakashipu was away for performing austerities, the demigod saw an opportunity, and that Hiranyakashipu's wife, Prahlad Maharaj, was still in the womb. And the demons, the demigods, they thought that this man is creating such havoc. We need to destroy his progeny. Imagine what his progeny can do. And they captured Hiranyakashipu's wife, and they were going to kill her. And Narad Muni, he appeared there. And Narad Muni stopped the demigods from doing that. And Narad Muni said, you cannot destroy this child. He is a great devotee. He is a great personality. Even if you wanted, you cannot destroy this child. So when the demigods heard that, they circumambulated the wife of Hiranyakashipu, offering respects to Prahlad Maharaj, who was still not born. And then Narad Muni gives shelter to the wife of Hiranyakashipu until Hiranyakashipu comes back from performing austerities. And Narad Muni then gives the instruction of this transcendental devotional service to both Hiranyakashipu's wife, and the instructions were heard by Prahlad Maharaj in the womb. And Prahlad Maharaj is actually narrating this to his friends in his class, that this is how I got Narad Muni's association and I became a devotee. So, and also Prahlad Maharaj was giving his association to his classmates and making them devotees. So, brilliant points here. Mrigari, we said Valmiki. Valmiki was also, he was I think he was a hunter. I need to recollect the details, but in the association of Narad Muni, Valmiki became, and a devotee, he composed this great literature of Ramayana. Any examples of personalities, again from Srimad Bhagavatam, of people or devotees or personalities who could have utilized the association of a devotee, and because maybe someone who, because of lack of devotee association, maybe took some wrong steps, maybe even for like a couple moments, So any examples that come in our mind?
Yeah, Shukracharya Prabhu, he had a wonderful opportunity
to
be with Vamandev and Bali Maharaj's side, and he somehow missed that fantastic opportunity. Even though he was such a great personality, his name would have been written in a golden letters for what all he has done to Bali Maharaj. But in the end, he's just got it all wrong.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing that.
Kaikeyi from the Ramayana. I
Yes.
think like she originally she had a lot of love for Ram, and she wasn't jealous that he was becoming the king instead of Bharat. But then Mantra influenced her and convinced her that it was all a plot against them.
Yes. Yes. That's a brilliant point. Yes. Thank you.
I think Hiranyakashipu also, Prahlad Maharaj tried to tell him who Krishna was, and Hiranyakashipu refused to budge.
He didn't take the advantage of the association of pure devotee. Nice. That's a great perspective. I love this discussion. Any more points?
Prabhu had another one, but this is from Srimad Bhagavatam. I was reflecting on when I was reading Lilamrita, before Prabhupada moved into 26 Second Avenue, he was staying in an apartment with some of the hippies in those days. They were staying with Prabhupada. I forget the name of the guy. It was David or something. He was with Prabhupada, but just was not able to appreciate Srila Prabhupada and almost kicked Prabhupada out of that apartment. So even though in such close quarters with the pure devotee, not taking advantage of that association.
Yes. Great. All right. Because Mataji, you pointed out the examples of Srila Prabhupada, I'll wrap up this from history. Again, devotees have already listed out those points. This Ajamil, there's one thing that didn't come up, is Ajamil. A moment's association, even in the mind, of looking at the activities being done by people who were, of not good character, completely destroyed and changed his track, right? That's one example. Bharat Maharaj, also, he was alone in the forest with the deer. Just at that moment, if somebody would have said, Bharat Prabhu, you have renounced the entire, the planet, your kingdom, uh, don't get attached, to the deer, but be dear to Krishna. uh, Lack of association can, create havoc in a devotee's spiritual life. Then someone said Kekai, which is again an example of how moments, just a little bit of bad association, and it changed her life. And so many other examples devotees pointed out. Now, which brings me to the next point, which is, do we have examples from modern day? And Mahasundari Mataji already started that, which is, in modern day, Srila Prabhupada was a pure devotee preaching in New York and USA, and some of the early devotees just couldn't really take full advantage of his association. I also wanted to point out is that Srila Prabhupada's his own life changed because of his first encounter with Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, which is when he met him for the first time, and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that you are an educated young man. Why don't you preach the message of Sri Chaitanya in the English language? And to which Srila Prabhupada said that we are not an independent country. We are under foreign subjugation. Who will listen to us? And how Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur then explained to Srila Prabhupada the urgency of the message of Krishna consciousness, how it transcends the modern political situation, and how, when this message needs to be preached and shared. That Srila Prabhupada, even though he was born in a devotee family, his father himself was a great devotee of Lord Krishna, but Srila Prabhupada's life trajectory changed just by his association, and the inflection point was his meeting with Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Srila Prabhupada, when he came to the US, he created so many devotees who had no idea of what Krishna is, who Krishna is, just created devotees. He created Paramahamsas, he created stalwart devotees out of people who were addicted to so many bad habits. So these are modern day examples of how the association of one man, just one man, Srila Prabhupada, it changed, in one sense, it created a revolution on this planet of a spiritual, a spiritual revolution. So and Nirja Mataji, as mentioned, that she herself, she mentioned her personal examples. We ourselves, at least for me myself, I can say for a fact that I had no idea and I had no interest or no desire in bhakti, and there was just no, the way my life was going before I came to Krishna consciousness, there was no way I would have become a devotee on my own. There was no desire. Just the fact that just this desire to serve Krishna, to connect with Krishna or his devotees has been given to. So we all are modern day examples of how association is so powerful that it can change a person's life. So that was the first aspect I wanted to talk about, is that why association is important and how it has changed the life of people in the past, how it is changing people's life today in the modern day. The other aspect of association that I wanted to think about, and I've been thinking about this for quite some time, is that association is one of the most powerful tool to create a devotee. Yet sometimes association can also be a very powerful reason for someone to stay away from devotees. One of the reasons that people want to stay away from spiritual societies, they don't want to do anything with any spiritual sangha, is because that people feel or think that the people practicing spiritual life, they have a holier than thou attitude, or maybe they don't practice what they preach. So the thought that was coming across my mind is that we want to think about an ideal association. What is an ideal association? Maybe how can we create that? And that's going to be our discussion um, for the remaining time of the session. Is that what is an ideal association, right? Because if we know what an ideal association is, we can maybe go ahead and create that, right? I remember a joke. I was listening to, I think, Gaurang Prabhu's lecture, and he was mentioning that one time a man, he was belonging to a lower, caste. He was in India, in traditional India, lower caste. He was trying to go and enter a temple, and then when the priest sees him, he becomes so angry. He's like, "You fallen rascal! How dare you come into the temple? um, you know, uh, just get out of here. You're simply contaminating this whole place by your presence." And so this man humbly just, goes away. And then he tries to come again the next day. And then this priest chastises him again and drives him out of the temple again. And then he tries on and on, but one day he just begs and requests from the priest, and he says, please tell me, how can I come to the temple? What should I do that I get the darshan of the Lord? Please don't drive me away. And the priest very arrogantly says, just get out of here. When God himself comes to you and tells that you can go and take darshan, you won't be allowed to come into the temple. So the man left, and then he went and prayed to God, and then he prayed, and after the next couple of days, the pujari didn't see that man trying to enter the temple. So one day he sees him on the street, and he's like, hey, you didn't, so did you pray to God? So he said, yes, I prayed to God, and I also got the answer. And to which the priest was like very surprised. And so he's like, so what was the answer? So the pujari is like, the lower caste man is like, I don't want to come to the temple because God asked me not to go to the temple. So he's like, why? So why did he ask you to not go to the temple? So he said, God told me that he has not let me inside. How will he let you inside? First, let him take me inside. So the moral of the story is that by our behavior and attitude, can actually attract or repulse devotees, people, and God himself. So that is why we have the need to create an ideal association, and it is up to us to create ideal association. So, but before I proceed, I'll just for maybe a minute or two, we'll take devotees' thoughts on what an ideal Sangha is. And I'll write it down on my phone again. Do we have thoughts?
People are not afraid to like criticize you, like to give you feedback, I guess, but also people who don't like make you feel like a smaller person, I guess.
Okay. So, all right. So, Sangha that doesn't make you feel bad or small. Okay.
I think there's like 3 different kinds of sanghas that I can think of. Like you have sanghas with senior devotees where you're able to get that sadhu sangha, right? That association for inspiration. Then you have your peer sangha, to what Parul just said, devotees who can be very frank with you. You can be frank with them. There is no aparadha as such. It is to grow together. And then the third level of sangha where you are providing some sort of guidance to someone who's new, because by having sangha with someone who is just up and coming in Krishna consciousness, their enthusiasm will make you a better devotee. So I think all those come in category of ideal sangha for me.
Okay, thank you. Well, that was a very contemporary way of presenting Uttama, Madhyama, and Kanishta, but that is really nice. Thank you for sharing that, Mataji.
I never thought of it that way, Prabhu. Now I like that point.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, be polite and humble.
I'm sorry, Prabhu. Could you repeat
that? Polite and humble.
Polite and humble. Okay.
Accepting for who we are and what we are.
Okay.
Sangha that promotes a non-envious culture.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Can I just, I just jumped out of my chair. Can I just share one screen which summarizes some of the points that you've done? Because recently I had an opportunity to do a seminar on the same topic.
Sure, Prabhuji.
When Mahasundari brought this topic, I am tempted to share that. I think it's a very relevant point that she made, except that there is one missing leg there, which I just wanted to share with you all. Can I get...
hungry.
Okay, thanks. I'll just share. Because this is one thing that I learned from His Holiness Bhakti Marga Swami Maharaj. I'll just tell you when I learned it. It will be an interesting thing for you all in Round Rock. Just hold on, Prabhu. So this is a model that I prepared during the seminar, which on the same topic, Prabhu. I think Mahasundari Mataji has covered beautifully this point in the middle. Normally, when we talk about association of devotees, we think that, okay, we have to associate with advanced devotees or senior devotees. And then this is a good thing to have, but it also has an additional level of responsibility that we give association to devotees also. So we need to make our time. So if you are getting 80 units of time here, we have to get some time to association, and we should associate with peers. So what I learned from His Holiness Bhakti Marga Swami Maharaj, this is a very important thing for me because this was on 26th November 2011. It was the marriage day reception of Mahasundari Mataji and Rupsagar Prabhu. So Bhakti Marga Maharaj was telling them in his reception speech, now you don't have to search to devotees to preach. You preach, husband can preach to wife, and wife can preach to husband. So that's where that words of Maharaj was very deep. I got into it made a deep impact on me. So when we talk about association, what we sometimes miss is self-introspecting association. So we can associate with our own self. Be it as a prayer, be sitting in front of the Murti or a picture of our Guru Maharaj or Prabhupada and say to ourselves that I am going to associate with myself to introspect how am I doing with my own association. Am I happy with my own self? Am I happy with what I'm doing today? Am I happy with what I'm doing in the next week? Or am I happy with what I've done in the last week? That self-introspecting association is also part of one of these aspects that you are talking about. I think Mahasundari, as again I repeat, I think she has covered 3 topics very well, but this is one thing that is very, very important also for our own spiritual progress. This is what I felt. So I just thought of sharing this because I felt it was very relevant. Hare Krishna. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for sharing that. That's beautiful. Self-introspecting, thinking on your own, taking the time to contemplate on what we have learned from others and how we can improve ourselves. I'll go back to sharing my screen again, and we will. So those were some really brilliant points. I wish I could have thought of those, and I have written those down. I'll try to put them in the slides and share with all of you. Some of the things that have been in my mind about Sangha, about what it can be, about how what we can make it are as follows. So an ideal Sangha is one where there is great love, trust, respect, and friendship amongst the members. These are the words actually of my Guru Maharaj, who has always emphasized a lot on building communities. And I've personally taken this as a very important thing to learn in my life. So great love amongst devotees and trust, because if we cannot trust, then how will we reveal our hearts to devotees, right? And so that's an ideal. Now we are talking about an ideal Sangha. Okay. So we will try to think of how we can get to an ideal Sangha, but at least we can start from there. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. Again, these are the thoughts that I had about an ideal Sangha. And if there are more, of course, I can go ahead and add a lot points to this list. But these are some of the most important points that I felt were like relevant. An ideal Sangha is united within the family of Srila Prabhupada. This unity is such an important factor for a Sangha, is that the members feel the togetherness with Krishna. One thing that I'm trying to recollect is that how, because Mataji said that it was Srila Narottam Das Thakur's appearance day on Friday, and one great example that comes in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is the example of Sri Narottam Das Thakur and his relationship with Shyamananda Pandit and Srinivas Acharya. Now, Narottam Das Thakur was a disciple of Lokanath Goswami. Shyamananda Pandit was a disciple of Hriday Chaitanya. And Srinivas Acharya was a disciple of Sri Jiva Goswami. Yet when they were in Vrindavan, they were such deep friends. Their friendship, their bonds, when they would meet, when Narottam Das Thakur and Srinivas Acharya and Shyamananda, when they met for the first time, they cried tears of ecstasy. They would long for each association. They would try to serve each other. And they all studied under Srila Jiva Goswami, united. Even though they were all disciples of different spiritual masters, they had no differences. And that is such a strong example for us to follow. So that's unity. There's a general, I mean, I don't like to use platitudes, but they say, right, united we stand, divided we fall. But united we grow, but divided we become slow, is something that came to my mind, right? There's a very famous African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. So unity is important. And then the mood of cooperation, that no matter what, that I'll try to cooperate with devotees, right? An ideal Sangha is non-sectarian, that devotees, whoever come into association, they do not feel some kind of discrimination towards them on the basis of caste, religion, language, nationality, even gender. It is non-sectarian, it is welcoming. Once one enters the association of devotees, one doesn't get those feelings. There's a brilliant example of how Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was taking one of the envoys of, like, I think maybe it was United Nations or someone, and he was taking them and demonstrating how Krishna consciousness, the Krishna conscious society, is a living, vibrant example of United Nations. And he took him to a temple room. It was a small facility, and he was walking, and he's like, this man is from Italy, this person is from here, this person is from that country, yet everyone is united trying to serve Krishna. And that's a non-sectarian way of of understanding things. One very important thing about an ideal Sangha is to have a family atmosphere, not in the sense that we treat like family, like sometimes we take family cheaply, but in the sense that one feels a sense of belonging to the Sangha. If there's no family atmosphere, if one is simply there, that I come here, I do my business, I go back, then if there is no sense of belonging, the opportunity for connecting more deeply is lost. So having a family atmosphere, uh, one of the key factors of an ideal Sangha is that members have exemplary sadhana, that each member has exemplary sadhana. And we talked about why sadhana was important, right? Also, not only having exemplary sadhana, but having exemplary character, human values, virtues. Lord Krishna himself emphasizes these virtues, these human virtues, in Bhagavad Gita 12th chapter. And this is fresh in my memory because I was recently talking about Bhagavad Gita 12th chapter. And something that struck my mind is that we need a society of wise people, but wise people who can take mature decisions, who can who can at this, uh, have mature actions. So we have the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, but knowledge coupled with character will become wisdom. And character is what comes from what Lord Krishna is mentioning in Bhagavad Gita 12 chapter 13 to 20, all those qualities. So devotees can take a look at 13 to 12, 20. Very brilliantly, Lord Krishna is, after describing how one can practice bhakti, the 12th chapter is devotional service, and Lord Krishna dedicates like a couple sentences for describing the character of a devotee who is dear to him. So ideal Sangha means the members have exemplary character, and then there is exemplary leadership. Exemplary leadership is very necessary for an ideal association, an ideal community, without which it is like a ship without a captain. There won't be any direction. And also in an ideal Sangha, the community and the leaders, they protect each other. If the community falls apart, the leader holds them together. If the leaders fall apart, the community holds them together. Is something that is a sign of a mature and an ideal Sangha. Now, these are some of the characteristics that I could think of from what I have experienced until now in my life. And how do we create an ideal Sangha? It is very easy to say, hey, there should be an ideal Sangha. It's always our demand, right? But we have a responsibility towards Sangha, towards association, right? So what is our duty in Sangha? Is that we have to, first of all, become better individuals. It falls on an individual level, right? And this is a thought that I've had. Any system can be as great as the people practicing it. Look at any system can be used, abused, and to exploit others. Varnashrama, if we take the people who were supposed to take Varnashrama, it is such a divine system, but people whose consciousness became corrupt started exploiting the lower rungs of the society. Anything can be used to use and abuse people. So any system can be only as good as the individuals practicing that system. So we have the society of Krishna consciousness, but it can only be strong as the individual links in the chain. This thought I actually got from there's this person who I used to watch National Geographic a lot before coming to Krishna consciousness, and this person he is the host of Brain Games. He talks about how the brain, different things about that. But then he says that we program our technology and our technology programs us back. So also, I drew a parallel from that, is that we create our environment and our environment creates us. So individually we have to at least take that responsibility to create a better environment. And how do we do that? We cannot do that until our internals are clean, until our own consciousness is not clean. So, and it's not only the leader's responsibility. That's something that comes up a lot, so many times. In fact, I have been a victim of this thought process so many times, that it is not only the leader's responsibility, but rather it is a responsibility of everyone to create an ideal sangha. Is that we start complaining, Prabhu, this leader should be doing something, that leader should be doing something, but that is there, but we should be focusing on what are we doing. So we have to focus on our individual responsibilities, and at an individual level we should be valuing each other's presence and contribution to the greatest degree. That is one of the applications of humility, is not to just simply think of what we are doing, but this is a practical application of humility, is to actually look around and see and value others' presence, and value the fact that someone is trying to become a devotee, and value whatever little contribution anyone else is making. So, and Srila Rupa Goswami, as Mahasundari Mataji and Jagjiva Jagannath Prabhu brilliantly highlighted the fact that we have to take association at 3 levels. Srila Rupa Goswami dedicates verses 3 to 6 are talking about how one should associate with devotees. Right? Dadati guhyam akhyati, dadati pratighanati guhyam akhyati prichati. These are the different loving exchanges at an individual level we as devotees should actually be focusing on. And also, how to create an ideal sangha is that if we also take the opportunity to create fond Krishna conscious memories with each other at an individual level, these are the things that can be done that will take us in the direction of an ideal sangha. You see, I was so many friends I've been to, and one friend had a huge wall dedicated just to pictures of the people that he had spent time with, and then in those pictures they would point out, this is what happened when I was here, this is what happened when I was here. So a person sometimes is only a sum total, an aggregate of the memories a person has from life. If we take the opportunity in our Sangha to create fond Krishna conscious memories together, that will be a brilliant strategy to use. And that creates an ideal Sangha, because each devotee is now looking forward for a positive experience. So take that opportunity individually to create those memories with each other. I personally have found so much hope and solace in glancing back at those spiritual memories that I had in association, and that has given me so much hope and encouragement for for my life in bhakti. So those are the things that can be done at an individual level. So the community is made of the people in the community and the leaders. So there is responsibility on the part of leadership as well. Leadership means leading by example. I used to serve back in ISKCON Youth Services, and then we would have different brahmacharis coming, right, for different services. So sometimes I would see that certain people would avoid coming to the program, or avoid coming association altogether, is because sometimes some devotees who would come and would just march orders that this is done, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. So when the leader is simply seen as a boss, then that creates a dissension between the community and the leaders. But a leader is someone who leads by example. Then we would have devotees who would come and then who would actually get their hands dirty doing services with other devotees. A devotee leading by example of doing things on their own and actually rallying the troops, so to say, is to serve the community. So a leader leads by example. However they are, the community will respond to that. A leader thinks oneself as the servant of all. That is the mood and it is very difficult, but this is one of the most important things for a leader to think about. Now I'm also thinking that for me to speak about leadership is, in one sense, I have no aptitude or even understanding, and leadership itself deserves a seminar in itself from someone more mature than myself. But what I'm trying to share here is what I have observed and what I have seen that drives away people from the community. So if the leader, because for the point of servant of all is that the last thing one wants to see another boss, right? uh, I heard, like, there was a one liner joke. So what is office? Office is the place where you just go to forget the stress and tension of your home, because at home there is another boss. Maybe it is the husband or it is the wife. uh, but the last thing one wants to see is another boss. And when one comes to the association of devotees, of course the principle of humility, the principle of service, the principle of servitude to senior Vaishnavas are taught. But on the leaders, the consciousness is imposed that one needs to have the consciousness of being a servant and not the boss, and to not make others feel that we are your boss. So a leader cares for all, and the leader should think that I am happy if everyone is cared for, if everyone is feels the protection, the love, and the care of the Lord and the devotees around them. Is impartial a lot of the times. Now here's the thing: because it is a community, it's a volunteer, people coming voluntarily in devotional life. It's so much is based on perception. But the thing is that when certain acts are done or taken, and if a leader is being perceived as being partial, say being partial to only a certain set of community, maybe distinguishing based on the language, or maybe just being partial. Sometimes some devotees jokingly talk about this, is that when you ask someone, hey, what is your name? Oh, my name is so and so, my name is Manoj, Arun, Varun, whatever. And you're like, okay, hey, you come here. And our attitude towards them doesn't really change that much, as compared to when someone introduces themselves as, oh, I am so and so das, and I am so and so dasi. Oh, please accept my humble obeisances. So instantly that change in consciousness is there. Now, of course, that has to be there. But if we are perceived as being partial, devotees will not trust the leadership. So the leader has to be impartial as much as possible. um, Willing to listen to community's feedback. That is also one of the things about uh, perfect leadership, is that he or she, or a leader has open ears. And when devotees are not heard from, when they are not heard, devotees leave. And that has happened so many times. So willing to listen to the community's feedback. Now, having said this, I want to highlight an important point, which is the perspective of the Vedas. And in so many ways, the Vedic scriptures emphasize on this point, which is Dharma versus Adikar. What happens is, living in our modern world, looking at the societies around us, we have in certain ways become so much focused on what our Adikar is, what our right is, and we constantly focus and meditate on only those things. I am a community member. Why haven't I gotten the love and the care and the respect from the from the leaders, right? And I am the leader. Why isn't community is supposed to be this? The members are supposed to be this. They are supposed to be willing to serve in this way. The responsibility for us, if we are a community member, is focus on dharma, not on our adhikar. Our dharma, our duty, our responsibility is to focus on the things that are listed individually. What happens is, we often focus on our adhikar and focus on the other person's dharma. But the attitude should be that the leaders focus on their dharma and the community focuses on their dharma. And that way there can be a brilliant harmony between the two. This concept of dharma and adhikar has been actually highlighted in so many ways. Like in the instructions to the king, the king is said that you are servant of all. You're supposed to treat your subjects as your own children, your own family, whereas the praja is instructed to worship the king as good as God. He's a representative of God. So these Vedic scriptures, they say, for example, for a guest and a host, the host is supposed to treat the guest as Atiti Devo Bhava, and the guest is supposed to only reside in a host's place for bare minimum time, for as long as only it is necessary, and not become a burden on the host. But what happens is, in Kali Yuga, everything is reversed. Everyone focuses on, hey, that person didn't receive me properly, and the guest thinks, man, when is this person going to go? Why is he coming? It is so inconvenient. So this change has happened in our society, in our own consciousness, and we have to focus, we have to flip it, and we have to think about where our responsibilities are and focus on those. And that way, we can actually do that. And that is also in one way that Trinadapi Sunichena means actually be humble, focus. At least, I haven't realized the import of this verse at all. And I know I cannot practice it also in my current state of mind. But one of the things is to be humble and just focus on the things that are my responsibility. So that way we can have a vibrant community. That is our duty in that sense. I remember one example, as because we are talking about individual qualities of devotees. I remember one example is that one time one devotee, so this is an example from the Sri Sampradaya, is one devotee went to Parashara Bhatta, I think, yes. And he went and asked Parashara Bhatta. Now, these are some stalwart acharyas of the Sri Vaishnava tradition. And more than the details of this, I remember the essence of this example. So this devotee went and asked Parashara Bhatta, what is the quality of a devotee, or who is a devotee? What are the qualities of a devotee? So Parashara Bhatta said, you need to learn from another stalwart devotee. You should go to Anantacharya, who is in Tirupati, and serve him. So he goes to Anantacharya and he asks him, who is a devotee? What are the qualities of a devotee? And Anantacharya is like, first you go and serve. So he engages him in service and menial services in many different ways. One day he was serving prasadam. So he asked this devotee to keep serving until all devotees were fed, and take prasad at the end. So this devotee, in these so many different ways, just humbly kept serving without thinking or saying anything like, hey, I've come here just for the answer to one question. Why are you doing this to me? But this devotee was so humble at heart, he just kept on serving that way. And then Anantacharya, he tells this devotee that a devotee is like a crane, a devotee is like a hen, a devotee is like salt, and a devotee is like you. So he just listens to that, and he doesn't really fully understand the import of that. And Anantacharya was, of course, very happy with this attitude, and he sends him back. And then he goes back to Parashar Bhatta, and then he asks him that these were the things that were told to me. And his gurus becomes very happy hearing that, and he tells him the import of that meaning is that a devotee is like a crane. A crane stands for hours in water. Like we just noticed, like in our local park a couple days ago, we just noticed a crane standing still in water, not moving. And sometimes the crane lets the small fishes go and goes for the big one. So also a devotee is very patient, and he is simply looking for Krishna consciousness, which is the big fish, and doesn't really bother for the small things in life. Then he said, a devotee is like hen. A hen can actually pick up food particles even from a dirty place. I don't know how many of us around here have experience with hen, but back in India, I had seen, we used to live in a small town. So a couple of our neighbors would have hen, and we would notice them. We wouldn't even know they would keep pecking on the ground, and we can't even see what they are pecking on, but they have the ability to pick up food from places that are non-existent, right? So also a devotee is a saragrahi. We become bharavahis. We become the opposite, but we are essence seekers. We don't look at the externals. We look at what the essence of the situation of people, of everything around us is, and extract the real meaning of life that way. A devotee is like salt. So what is the quality of salt? When someone cooks a great dish, we never really ask, hey, how much salt was there in this? We never really ask about salt at all in our cooking. Hey, this time I put this garam masala extra, or maybe this haldi, or this mirchi, or this, I got a special masala made by this company, and that is why it is tasting so good. But nobody really talks about salt. The salt loses its identity in trying to make a great dish. So also devotee is like that, very humble, always in the background, willing to give up any sense of that identity or recognition for oneself. And the devotee is like you, which was that devotee who was very humble and very meek and submissive to his gurus. And so also this example also doesn't go to say that the gurus have the right to treat the disciple in any way, but it was to actually highlight the quality of that person, that something like this happened. But that has stayed with me. For this example, when I heard many years ago, that has stayed with me. And at least for me, as an individual level, that becomes a lesson to imbibe and to emulate in my life. So that's what I thought it was very important, because we're talking about contribution at an individual level. Now I try to make things in acronyms and memorize it, and I try to bind certain key points together. Again, it's not exhaustive, but these are some very important points that I feel. So for Sangha, the S stands for sensitivity. Sensitivity in the sense that one has to be sensitive to people's. We sometimes judge people just looking at their present situation, and that's, we have to be sensitive in a way that we look at a person's entire journey of how they have become devotees, where they are coming from, what have they learned, how they grew up, who made them devotee. And that sensitivity is needed in Sangha, the sensitivity of being human, and being good humans, imbibing those virtues that Lord Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita. And that way we can have a great Sangha. Then we have to be very careful. That is something that I didn't talk about, which is aparadh. The timing of I got a message from another devotee, and the timing of that message was very great, because I was trying to list on what aparadhas can be, and but he shared a list of 12 aparadh that Sripad Ramanujacharya lists down, talking about how one can disrespect a devotee. So one has to be careful about that as well. Don't judge others, don't commit aparadhas. What are the different aparadhas? I'll quickly go through those. So he calls them nirupana. So number one is janma nirupana, that haughtiness in the mind that one belongs to a higher birth, or discriminating Vaishnavas on the basis of their birth. Then he says Sharira Nirupana, discriminating Vaishnavas on the basis of their bodies, example, Matajis, Prabhus, whatever body level, discriminating against a Vaishnava in that way. Bhava Nirupana, differentiation of Vaishnavas at a superficial level, that one is young, the other is old. If someone is young, they do not know. If someone is old, they must be wise. Consider example of Dhruv Maharaj. And I think these points were listed from a lecture given by Gauranga Prabhu. The next one is ashrama nirupana, identifying Vaishnavas with their ashramas and discriminating them on the basis of their ashramas. Avayava nirupana, making fun of bodily shortcomings, right? Whether one is lame, dumb, deaf, etc., discriminating against them on that basis. One example that comes to my mind is how one time Srila Rupa Goswami was meditating on the pastimes of the Lord, and he happened to, and when they would meditate, they would actually witness the pastimes happening in front of their eyes. So Shri Rupa Goswami witnessed a pastime that was particularly very funny, and he started to laugh on his meditation when he was in his trance. And as he was doing so, there was a Babaji who was passing by, who was lame, he was crippled. And as he was passing by, Sri Rupa Goswami was meditating on the pastime. that Babaji felt that this Rupa Goswami is laughing at me. And I can understand that everyone else might look at my physical deformities and make fun of me, but how can Rupa Goswami do that? And like that, he just felt offended and he went. Sri Rupa Goswami's meditation on the pastime, the pastime that he was witnessing, as he was meditating, it stopped abruptly. And Rupa Goswami became very, very concerned, as that has never happened before. Whenever he used to meditate on a pastime, he would see everything in its entirely, like something stopping abruptly had never happened before. So he goes and talks to Sanatan Goswami and asks Sanatan Goswami that this happened. Well, what should I do? So Sanatan Goswami, the first thing Sanatan Goswami tells him is that, did you offend a Vaishnava? Did you offend a Vaishnava? So Rupa Goswami is like, no. And so then Sanatan Goswami advises Rupa Goswami, at least, okay, we will try to find out. Go and ask all the Babajis and the big sannyasis and devotees to assemble and serve them prasadam. Call them all for prasadam. So Rupa Goswami did that. He invites all the different devotees for prasadam. And then he says, then he goes to Sanatan Goswami. He's like, has everyone come? So Rupa Goswami says, okay, let me go and check. And he says, has everyone come? And then some devotees say, oh, no, actually one person hasn't come. That Babaji, that lame Babaji, he hasn't come. And so that is when Sanatan Goswami says, so this is the person. You need to go and talk to this devotee. So Rupa Goswami goes and holds asks this Babaji, Babaji, you didn't come for prasadam. What happened? Did something go wrong? No, nothing happened. No, please. He holds his feet and he's begging for forgiveness. Please tell me what happened. And then, but the Babaji says that, this, when I was passing by, you were laughing at me. So then Rupa Goswami realizes that is what had happened. At this point, Rupa Goswami could have said that, do you have any idea the kind of realizations I have? Do you know how many years I have been in devotional service? Do you know who I know? I know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Talk to him face to face, one-on-one. But despite all those things, Rupa Goswami is holding the feet of this devotee and begging for forgiveness. So that is something that I remembered. Making fun of bodily shortcomings of Vaishnavas. The next is Alasya Nirupana, discriminating Vaishnavas on the basis of their peculiar habits or their shortcomings in their activities, practices, like finding faults with the way they pay obeisances, or they speak, or they chant, or they sing, or they dance. So many things. Vasa Nirupana, claiming superiority on the basis of birth or stay in dhams like Puri. Oh, I am, that claiming superiority based on that. This Bandhu Nirupana, discriminated treatment of Vaishnavas on the basis of friendship and not respecting Vaishnavas, taking them as mere family members. So creating a family environment that I had highlighted before is to create a sense of belonging, but it's not to create a sense of like, hey, sometimes we do that with our family as well, to take them cheaply and not respecting them, not giving them the respect that they deserve as Vaishnavas. This Prakasha Nirupana, rendering service only to gurus and acharyas and not to other Vaishnavas, or believing that rendering service to guru is important and other Vaishnavas is unimportant. Then there is Prakara Nirupan, serving only those Vaishnavas who are serving Guru and deities, not rendering services to other Vaishnavas. Then there is Vartana Nirupan, differentiating on the basis of what occupation does a Vaishnava follow for his material upkeep. And then there is Dosha Nirupan, looking out for mistakes in great personalities or in the services rendered by Vaishnavas, or commenting upon them by taking the position of a learned person. So these are different kinds of aparadhas that can happen, and one has to be conscious. Just be respectful of others, just appreciate what journey someone else is going through, and don't try to judge others in that way. So avoiding aparadhas. The other thing is, never let go of association of devotees. This has been one of the biggest mistakes that I have committed in my life, is that when I felt that, and instead of introspecting, the dharma versus karma, the dharma versus adikar, instead of introspecting on my own dharma, on my own focus on what my duties should have been, what my contributions should have been, when I focused on the wrong things, I let go of the association of devotees. When I let go the association of devotees, everything goes downhill. The sadhana, the desire to serve, the desire to connect with Krishna, and life becomes just complicated. We get back into the same mess as before. So never let go of the association of devotees. Also, something like when we have a family, no matter how bad of a fight one has in the family, we try to unite always, right? When a husband and a wife, they have disagreements, or a father and a son, mother and a son, father and children, there are disagreements always. Wherever there are two conditioned minds, there will always be disagreements, there will always be some kind of a so to say, fight. But we have to understand is that we have the higher principle is that we unite always, and we never let go of the association of devotees. The other thing is, give your best. Instead of asking what you can get, focus on giving your best. One of the things that I've heard that when I became a devotee is the soul's deepest desire is to love and to be loved. We should, rather than expecting how much others love us, we should be focusing on how many people we have made feel loved. So we have to give our best. If we give our best, we can create an ideal association, and we can stay in the Sangha very powerfully. And then appreciation. So I'd heard this in another lecture, this appreciation of devotees, how to appreciate devotees, especially we come from so many different backgrounds, so many different cultures, languages. So that it starts with tolerance. Whenever we meet new devotees, we meet devotees who are very different from others, we just tolerate, thinking that we have to serve Krishna together. So if we do that, tolerance leads to acceptance. The focus is on serving together. If we tolerate our differences, gradually we'll come to a stage where we have accepted the differences, that we understand, no, this person is this way because we have understood this person's journey, this is the way they grew up, this is the way they are. And after tolerance and acceptance, by continuously serving in under the guidance of Guru, Krishna, under the direction of Shastras, scriptures, tolerance, acceptance, and then it transforms into appreciation. Then we start seeing and appreciating the things that devotees are doing. So we have to go through those stages and appreciate devotee services that way. This, and I have one last example that is a personal experience, and I'll share why I put this point in this. Is because when I was in my college studying engineering, it was in my first year. I was sitting in the lab and trying to write some doing some computer programming, and this one fellow comes from nowhere. And as I was sitting on the chair and my computer was on the desk, he comes and sits on the desk. He looks at my computer and he's like, "Oh, what are you writing?" And I'm like, "I'm just trying to complete this programming assignment." He's like, "Oh, send this to me as well." And I looked at this person and I was like, who is this person? Later on, that was my first semester, and in the first semester we had something called as ragging. Ragging means just give the new fresh incoming batch a hard time, just for fun. So this person, I got to know about him, was like the some of the craziest people who had taken in the first year of engineering. And this person had come from such a background that in Hindi we would call such a person mawali. Mawali means like, an uncultured person. But that's how he had come. And this person, he had the audacity of, one time he locked up his own teacher out of the classroom. So he had done really crazy things. And when I got to know about that person, I'm like, I do not want to see this person's face ever again. He had the audacity to actually go and nag a couple of his own batchmates, saying that he's a senior. So he crazy person. And I was like, I don't want to ever see this person ever again. And lo and behold, I came in contact with devotees. I got connected to ISKCON programs, and I started associating with devotees. One fine day, I see that very same person in that association, and I just put my hand on my head. I'm like, what happened here? How did this person come here? So it so happened I got to know about him, and he is from Orissa, and he had some connection with Jagannath, and he had some appreciation for Jagannath. And he had met some devotees, and through that he got to know that there were some college programs, and that's how he got connected. And despite those differences, like when I started living in, we used to call it's called Bhakti Vedanta Academy for Culture and Education, we started living together. And me and him, we were like poles apart. Our behaviors, our attitude, everything. I could never have imagined living with such a person. But then just by living with each other, just by tolerating our differences, I accepted him as a person who is going through a different journey. But then I also accepted the fact that he wants to become a devotee. And 4 years of engineering passed, he became one of my best friends in a way that we used to go, and he was so bold. Just because of his upbringing, he was so bold. He made so many people into devotees. So that's how this whole journey happens. Like, we will meet someone who we cannot even conceive will become a good friend or a devotee. So at that moment, if we just simply look at the differences, we will be overwhelmed. If we tolerate those differences and walk towards acceptance, and through that acceptance will come the appreciation. So that is how a sangha will actually, become vibrant. So those were some thoughts I had about Sangha. As to, we talked about why Sangha is important, uh, what Srila Prabhupada says about Sangha. We looked at examples from the history, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. We looked at some modern day examples. And then we talked about how it is our responsibility to create an ideal Sangha, and how to focus on our Dharma and not on our Adikar, and how, we looked at the acronym as to SANGA, sensitivity, not commit aparad, never give up, never let go of association. What was G for? I keep forgetting. That's Kali Yuga memory. I just talked about it. G is for, does anyone remember? Give your best. And appreciation. Is that appreciate devotee and take this, it's a gradual evolution. So don't jump onto conclusions, but rather focus on trying to appreciate others. And with that, I will stop. I know that I am not at all mature or, fully realized about these matters. So in presenting these things, if I've my goal was to share the things that I've learned, but if I've offended anyone, I would like to apologize and beg forgiveness. That is not at all my goal. But we really need to make a community that invites everyone to become devotees. And that is my thought about this whole thing. So thank you very much. We can have some questions, comments, and corrections are all welcome. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much. Before we move forward for questions, we're just requesting devotees to enter the questions in the chat, and then we will kind of go through a few questions today. Is that all right with you, Kanhai Gopal Prabhu?
Sure, Mataji.
Okay, thank you. So devotees, if you have any questions, please do enter them in the chat at this time. While we're waiting for devotees to enter questions, I was curious, Prabhu, you were mentioning the story of the person who ragged you. Did you ever go and share back with him on your first impressions of him?
Oh, I tell him every time. I tease him every time. And one thing I talk to him about is like, how did we become devotees? Like, it's sometimes for me it is inconceivable. And so many devotees that I shared my journey with when I lived with devotees, there were devotees from all different types of backgrounds. There was like, and in a normal, society, like, people would never have lived together, without Krishna consciousness. There was this devotee who, when he would, so we had like a row house, what is what we call as a row house. It's like, we would have like, there were 2 floors on the row house, and we know that there was another devotee. When he would sleep at night, we would ask him to sleep on his own, because he would snore so loud that no one else could sleep. And we would tease that devotee. But I was thinking that in a normal day-to-day life, like on a normal karmi level, nobody would have, like tolerated such things, such uh, insignificant differences, so to speak, about, but I tease this devotee of, he's still my, really good friend. So yeah, do that.
Wonderful. It's always nice when you can share stories like that and have that Sangha of peers where you can be very comfortable and tease them also.
Yeah.
There's a question here for Vaikuntesha Balaji Prabhu. It's on your previous slide, Prabhu, that had the list of offenses. He calls out that the first item and the seventh item, they look very similar. So could you kind of elaborate on that, Prabhu? And if you don't mind sharing your screen again, as you said, Kali Yuga memory, so we can all see again what 1 and 7 are. Oh, you went on mute, Prabhu?
Okay, sorry. Right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, we can see.
The first one is based on birth. Higher birth means higher caste, I guess, being a Brahmana or being born in a devotee family on the basis of that. Whereas claiming superiority as a dham vasi, as just because I was born in a dham or near a dham, I am superior.
It also says about the basis of birth, so that's why I was wondering.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think
but it is actually on the dham, where so because it says vas,
yes,
so it must be dham and not janma.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
There's another question. I see Gopal Chandra Prabhu has a question, and then there's some other questions also. But if you want to take Gopal Chandra Prabhu's question first.
Okay. I also have some direct questions. Okay. But I'll read Gopal Chandra Prabhu's question. Thank you for the fantastic class. Thank you for the appreciation, Prabhu. There may not be one formula for everyone, but generally, is there any such guidance with regards to how much time one should allot for peer association versus senior association versus junior association versus self-introspection association? Something like 30%, 50%, etc. for each per week, keeping in mind the other material responsibilities and spiritual sadhana. Okay, can you please share some insights from your personal experience also, if possible? I am the least organized person, Prabhu, you would ever meet in your life. So organizing association based on how much one should associate with senior, junior, or self-introspection. I think we all, self-introspection is something I don't think we really don't need to take out separate time for because we spend a lot of the time by ourselves also, especially here in the US. Like there's just so much time we have on our own. My key factor about senior association has been for me is at least once a week, if not once a week, at least once a month. Back in India, when I used to live there, we would have our regular mentor-mentee meetings. We would sit and talk Krishna Katha, just discuss what we have done in the week and things like that. So having such kind of systems helps a lot and associate with senior devotees. Junior association is something that we don't really, I feel personally, is something we don't really need to calculate or worry about. It is something, it comes as a service, because when we are preaching, when we are sharing the message of Krishna consciousness, I feel it automatically happens. It is going to happen automatically anyway. But I feel personally and I also look at the things like sadhana, my interest in services, my interest in hearing. If those things, if I'm not really feeling like, being involved in any service, so that is when I feel like those are emergency times when I really need an association from a senior devotee or a Vaishnava. That way, you could also share your thoughts, Prabhu, or maybe someone else can also add to this. But again, as you said, there's like no general principle, but all of it is needed.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for sharing your personal insights. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Prabhu. So,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, may I add something here? Do you have
sure,
permission?
sure.
Yeah, so in my experience, we don't have to plan much. It all happens automatically. Otherwise, how we are coming in association with so many senior devotees of the level of Maharajas and even entry level devotees. But everyone teaches us something. Like I have encountered few entry level devotees who are fighting, who are struggling in life, which if I keep myself in that position, it will be very tough for me. And they are coming out flying colors. So we really don't know who is senior, junior in this spiritual life. So even a person who is entering may have been very advanced from previous life. And yeah, so this is my experience. And for in my case and many other devotees' case, I don't think any planning is needed. If we follow basic things, everything else follows automatically. Sorry if there is any mistake.
Oh no, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Mataji. I think that is true in one sense. The other question is, I think Parol asked is, how do you move past disagreements, especially if you are willing to forgive and move on, but the other person isn't? That's a difficult one, even for me to answer, is because when you are willing to let go of things and move past, and when the other person isn't, it becomes really hard. It becomes like an emotional challenge to deal with. Personally, how I deal with such a situation, or I would deal with such a situation, is by focusing on what is important for me and focus on what my duty is, and how I can keep, or how I can continue being a good example. Sometimes trying to solve or trying to induce a person to uh, be forgiving, or be accommodating, doesn't really work. And in such times we have to focus on what is my duty and what can I do best in this situation, and focus on those things and move ahead. Does that help in any way?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay. So, okay, there's one more question. Can you please explain sensitivity in Sangha? Okay. Sensitivity comes in many things. Sensitivity basically is a human characteristic. And for Vaishnavas, the sensitivity can be understood also as being, as the scriptures point out many times, as a Vaishnava is a paradukha dukhi. So empathy is something that is so strong in a Vaishnava's heart, is being able to relate with and understand someone else's pain. So sensitivity means to be on that human level, try to understand other person's journey, their thought process, their needs, or their aspirations, and to not judge devotees in that way, but to try to understand that, right? So being insensitive is when we start making these different mistakes. I hope that helps. And senior devotees, all devotees, um, can feel free to comment on these. Okay. I think we are all out of questions, I guess, Mataji. Over to you.
If there are no questions, then we can move to Parul for announcements.
Haribol, can someone share their screen with the announcements? Yeah, I don't think I can.
Oh, okay.
So thank you so much, Kanhai Gopal Prabhu, for the amazing class on Sangha. So these were just a few points that I thought were really powerful. The first bullet point is just like the acronym for sadhana: sincerity, austerity, determination, humility, acceptance, nurturing, and attention. I really like the proverb that you mentioned, Prabhuji, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And yeah, so there were a lot of very like insightful points that are like applicable for us, like in our congregation at Temple and also just like in our day-to-day lives. So thank you very much for that. So an upcoming event on this Wednesday is the appearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So on this day, we're fasting until noon. Thank you for our community members for their continued support. Like the donations have been very helpful for the temple. So thank you so much for supporting us during these hard times. And good luck to everyone who's taking the Bhakti Shastri exam today. As a high school student, I know that exams are not very fun, but I hope that this will help you on your spiritual journey. And on a more somber note, the US recorded 500,000 deaths due to COVID last week. So we pray for everyone who lost their loved ones, and we're requesting that everyone please like take this seriously and follow the CDC guidelines so that hopefully we can move past this crisis soon. So we are continuing the daily japa sessions from 5:30 to 6:30 on Zoom. So everyone can get together and chant their rounds every morning. So it's another opportunity for devotee Sangha, as Prabhu mentioned that was very important in the class. On March 6th, which is this upcoming Saturday, is our bi-weekly Mangal Arati from 5:30 to 9 a.m. So we'll have the Mangal Arati, Tulsi Arati, Japa, Guru Puja, and a Srimad Bhagavatam class. So we're having Mangal Arati every other week on Zoom. And we are continuing the Saturday Bhagavad Gita overview classes from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. every Saturday. So far we've completed the review until chapter 15, and we only have 3 more chapters and 2 sessions left. So please make sure to take advantage of this. Finally, we are requesting some prayers for my grandmother, or the mother of Krishna Chandra Prabhuji, mother of Manoj Prabhuji, the mother of Akshata Mataji, the mother of Omkar Prabhuji, Gopal Chandra Prabhu's health, the Giritari family, the nephew of Sukriti Mataji, Jaya Jeevana Gandhi, our youngest member of our congregation, the people of Texas who are still suffering due to bad weather, and the continued worldwide suffering for COVID. So hopefully together we can get through this. So who's doing the Narasimha prayers today?
It's going to be Jishnu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, we are doing.
Thank you, Parul.
Okay, can't chant. Namaste Narasimhaya. Pralaya Matala Dadaine Hiranyakasi Purvaksaha Pilatankana Kalaye Ito Narsinga Parato Narsinga Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsinga Vahe Narsinga Hita He Narsinga Narsinga Madim Saranam Prapate Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Sringam Dalita Hiranyakasipu Tanubringam Kesavati Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Kesavati Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Jaya Jagadisha Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Narsinga Dev Jaya Narsinga Dev Jaya Narsinga Dev Jaya Narsinga Dev Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Jaya Radha Bhakti Bihari Radha Bhakti Bihari Radha Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hari Bol.
Both half
One
hour.